Nobody's favorite time of the week again. It's supposed to be Ask a Rabbi Wednesday, but sorry, we didn't get around till today, till Thursday. Had a busy schedule yesterday. Have a busy schedule today too, but I figured I should keep going, even though we don't have that many viewers for this series. They always send YouTube, to keep going with this series, and maybe it'll take off. And I had a very, very interesting question. I was deliberating whether or not I should address this in the video because it's so controversial. And this is not a psak halacha, but rather a discussion and examining different piskei halacha from actual poskim, not people like me who are just lay people with a title, basically. This is a very difficult question. Really, it's beyond my pay scale. Question is, what is, it was really presented more or less as a statement, and then someone asked as a question. I'm not going to name names. It was comments in the Facebook post from this week, and the questions were, really statements people made, but whatever it is. Other people, they feel like they can pontificate, and I'm just presenting, reporting so you could decide or not, or just reporting really, and leave the decisions to the poskim, to the decisors. But this is a very difficult question, very complicated question. It's not as simple as it would seem. The question was, what if someone, for example, they convert to Judaism, were totally observant, and they had certain beliefs, hidden beliefs deep in them, that were against our religion. But otherwise, they were totally observant. So the question is the nature of the belief. My answer is, this has to be a case-by-case basis. Not only in general case, but an individual person, because people's perceptions of their beliefs are so varied that it's very hard to render any general psak on matters like this. These all have to be taken on a case-by-case basis, and really has no difference between someone who's a convert, who's born Jewish, except for the question of whether or not the conversion was in fact valid. Now, when it comes to conversion, me'ikar adin, and I don't understand really how anyone could be mekel otherwise. And I know there's claims to this, but it's very, very doichik. I really don't understand it. Me'ikar adin, we say dvarim shebalev einam dvarim. Words in the heart are not words. We say that as a general rule in halacha. Words of the heart are not words. With a person, an unprofessed belief has no halachic bearing to us as human beings. God is the Beichen Libais. God knows our heart, knows our soul, and that's one of our dogmas. But if but that's for God to judge. Torah b'shamayim, Torah's not in heaven. We are given a Torah that we have to judge on our own. And of course, a responsible Bezdin would refrain from converting a person who has such beliefs and do proper chakiras to investigate what type of beliefs does this person have. But the question is not whether it should be done. Of course, no responsible Bezdin should convert someone who has puzzle beliefs. And what I'm talking about is they do believe in all the 13 principles of faith, which have been accepted more or less as those are the line of demarcation between a heretic and a believer in Judaism, someone who denies one of those 13. But, for example, if someone, they believe in the coming of the Messiah, But they identify the Messiah as someone who already has left this world. Now, it's not, although the accepted mainstream belief is that there will not be a Messiah returning from the dead, and no responsible Beis Din should convert someone who believes otherwise. But if someone does have such a false belief, and even they could find a source in the Talmud and Chazal for such a belief, and that's why they believe it, not because of any external reason, but precisely because what they find in Chazal. Such a person is foolish, but they do not cross the line of a heretic. Now I'm basing this on, there's a teshuvah from of Aaron Feldman, who's Rosh Yeshiva in Baltimore, near Israel. I remember him in Yerushalayim also. When I was in Yerushalayim, he would give a shir in Mishlei. I used to attend Motzei Shabbos when I was a bacher. And around that time is when he moved to Baltimore. It's concerning a particular group that believes in a false Messiah, and his psak was as follows: that those who believe that this person who passed away is the Messiah are kosher Jews. And we're talking people born Jewish, but really no nafkamina between a born Jew and convert, if it's a proper convert. And so therefore we can extrapolate this as well to say that if someone converted and held this belief at the time of the conversion, it does not invalidate the conversion, even though it's wrong. As long as they do not believe that this person is God. If they only believe he's a Messiah, but then he explained it's a foolish belief. Even the Gemara talks about perhaps that the Messiah could come from the dead. So if it was, it would be King David himself, it would be Moses, it wouldn't be someone contemporary from 20 years ago. Now, I remember someone from that particular group who were addressing, he explained the difference between different false messiahs, the other false messiahs who were wicked, and this one, was a tzaddik, and that's the difference, and you could believe any tzaddik could come back, whatever. How do we know? Meaning, if just the question is coming with other false messiahs as well. Can we apply this to other false messiahs as well? Well, we had a case in our community. There was a young man, born Jewish, Baal Tshuva, very frum, very pious. He was working as a mashgiach in a restaurant. The Rabbi Mach, and he entertained doubts about certain beliefs concerning a much more famous false messiah, and he said he wasn't exactly sure. Different things. Maybe he's a messiah, maybe he's not. Things like this. Now the Rabbi Machshir at that place said no, he's not allowed to serve in this capacity. And he rendered such a psak. I spoke to him. I said, Meikra Din, it's wrong, but I understand if you have, you have your own policies and you have to follow your policies. We spoke with a Rav who was a Talmud of the Satmar Rav, Rabbi Yitzchak Lebovich, very frum, and tremendous Talmud Chochem and Poisik, and he said no. He said even though such a belief is false, of course, it would not render a person who's otherwise frum, as long as the person doesn't believe that this is God. Now, if we look even further into it, we have to ask, well, what does it mean? The idea of of someone being God and this and that. Well, everything is God. So we could say, according to many opinions, although that's also a matter of disagreement in Jewish theology. But not everything is the creator, meaning God used, Hasidic philosophy would say that God created the world from himself, simsim lav kapshuto, that when he withdrew himself from the world, his existence, in order to make a place for the world to exist, it didn't mean he withdrew his essence, he only withdrew his obvious presence. And so therefore, a tzaddik could be either a manifestation or an opening to the obvious presence of God. Not that we worship, but the problem would come when worshiping a man. Meaning we don't pray to a man. That is absolutely forbidden. That's no question. That's one of our basic dogmas. But if someone would believe that say a man was, even the Messiah, whatever, was a manifestation, or someone who they think was the Messiah, something was a manifestation of the Shekhinah, the presence of God, that would not be heresy. Now, of course, if it's a false Messiah and it's a wicked person, so then, of course, it's wrong. But again, if someone believes such a thing, and they converted, would their conversion be invalid? Probably not. However, again, any good Bezdin, worth anything, has to realize that there is a certain amount of responsibility coming in to conversion, even though I'm very liberal in that aspect of it, but there is a certain point where you have to look at someone and say, what you believe is not accepted in Judaism, or what you practice or whatever, and not to convert such a person. But the parameters don't have to be as strict necessarily, but Baruch Hashem, my experiences have been that the people who I've had the schus to sit in a Bezdin and watch them convert together with other Rabbanim, the people have always been the top notch, much better than the halacha requires. So don't misconstrue anything that I'm saying to be some term of acceptance of liberal practice. Although one should be educated in the halacha to know what's the difference between the halacha and the minhag. Certain things aren't even minhag, just practices that we do. And we shouldn't condemn people necessarily just because they're violating something that's essentially a minhag. And even when it comes to belief, now the problem comes in where, obviously, if someone would pray to a person, that would be the problem. That would cross the line. But to believe that a person is a manifestation of godliness in some form would not be. The person is that person who they're believing in is right or wrong, but even if they believe such a thing about a person who is no good, but they just don't know any better, probably would be not considered a heretic, but it would still be anathema to the Jewish community and something that we should seek to avoid. One friend of mine said, well, he wants to seek to reconcile with such people, at least to keep them out of heresy, because they're right on the border of heresy. It's easy to fall one way or to go up the other way, and either they could fall down to heresy and idolatry, or we could actually make them, true believers, even though they're believing false things, but they're not all the way. It's difficult to say, but suffice to say, if such a thing would happen, there are certain parameters and I did not give exhaustive parameters, but that's it. So, all right, if please like, share, and comment, and subscribe. All right, God bless. Take care.